We're still in Book 1, Chronicles of Narnia. Let's see. We just finished. Yeah, there we are. Chapter 6. The beginning of Uncle Andrew's troubles. Let go, let go, let go, let go, screamed Polly. I'm not touching you, said Diggory. Then their heads came out of the pool, and once more the sunny quietness of the wood between the worlds was all about them, and they seemed richer and warmer and more peaceful than ever after staleness and ruin of the place that they had just left. I think that if they had been given the chance, they would have forgotten who they were and where they had come from, and would have laid down and enjoyed themselves, half asleep, listening to the growing of the trees. But this time there was something that kept them as wide awake as possible. For as soon as they had gotten out onto the grass, they found that they were not alone. The queen, or the witch, whatever you like to call her, had come up with them, holding fast to Polly's hair. That was why Polly had been shouting, "Let go." This proved, by the way, another thing about the rings, which Uncle Andrew hadn't told Diggory, because he didn't know it himself. In order to jump from world to world by one of those rings, you didn't need to be wearing or touching it yourself. It's enough if you are touching someone who is touching it. In that way, they work like a magnet, and everyone knows that if you pick up a pin with a magnet, any other pin, which is touching the first pin, will come too. Now that you saw her in the wood, Queen Jadis looked different. She was much paler than she had been, so pale that hardly any of her beauty was left, and she stopped and seemed to be finding it hard to breathe. And she was stooped and seeming to be finding it hard to breathe, as if the air of this place stifled her. Neither of the children felt in the least afraid of her now. "Let go of my hair, let go of my hair," said Polly. What you mean by it? What you mean by it?" "Here, let go of her hair at once," said Diggory. They both turned and struggled with her. They were stronger than she, and in a few seconds they had forced her to let go. She reeled back, panting, and there was a look of terror in her eyes. "Quick, Diggory," said Polly. Change rings and into the home pool." "Help! Help! Mercy!" cried the witch in a faint voice, staggering half after them. "Take me with you. You cannot mean to leave me in this horrible place. It's killing me." It's reasons of state, said Polly spitefully. "Like when you killed all those people in your own world. Well, don't be quick, Diggory." They had put on their green rings, but Diggory said, "Oh, bother! What are we to do? What are we to do?" He couldn't help feeling a little sorry for the Queen. "Oh, don't be such an ass," said Polly. 10 to 1 she's only shamming. Do come on." And then both children plunged into the home pool. "It's a good thing we made that mark," thought Polly, but as they jumped, Diggory felt a large cold finger and thumb had caught him by the ear. And as they sank down, and as the confused shape of our own world began to appear, the grip of that finger and thumb grew stronger, The witch, which was apparently recovering her strength. The witch was apparently recovering her strength. Diggory struggled and kicked, but it was not at the it was not the least of you. It was not the least use. In a moment they found themselves in Uncle Andrew's study, and there was Uncle Andrew himself, staring at the wonderful creature that Diggory had brought back from beyond the world. And he might well stare. Diggory and Polly stared too. There was no doubt that the witch had got over her faintness, and now that one saw her in our world, with ordinary things around her, she fairly took one's breath away. In Charn she had been alarming enough. In London she was terrifying. For one thing, they had not realized till now how very big she was. Hardly human, is what Diggory had thought when he looked at her. And he may have been right, for some say that there is giantish blood in the royal family of Charn. But even her height was nothing compared with her beauty, her fierceness, and her wildness. She looked 10 times more alive than most of the people one meets in London. Uncle Andrew was bowing and rubbing his hands and looking, to tell you the truth, extremely frightened. He seemed a little shrimp of a creature beside the witch, and yet, as Polly said afterwards, there was a sort of likeness between her face and his. Something in the expression. It was the look that all wicked magicians have, the mark which Jadis had said she could not find in Diggory's face. One good thing about seeing the two together was that you would never again be afraid of Uncle Andrew any more than you would have been afraid of a worm after you had met a rattlesnake, or after a cow after you had met a mad bull. "Oh, pooh," thought Diggory to himself. Him a magician? Not much. Now she's the real thing." Uncle Andrew kept on rubbing his hands and bowing. He was trying to say something very polite, but his mouth had gone all dry, so dry that he could not speak. His experiments with the rings, as he called it, was turning out more successful than he had liked, for the thought that he had dabbled in magic His experiment with the rings, as he called it, was turning out more successful than he had liked, for though he had dabbled in magic for years, he had always left all the dangers, as far as one can, to other people. Nothing at all like this had ever happened to him before. Then Jadis spoke, not very loud, but there was something in her voice that made the whole room quiver. "Where is the magician who has called me into this world?" Madam," gasped Uncle Andrew, "I'm most honored, highly gratified, and a most unexpected pleasure. If only I had the opportunity of making any preparations, I "Where is the magician, fool?" said Jadis. "I am, madam. I hope you will excuse any liberties these naughty children may have taken. Well, I assure you there's no intention." "You?" said the Queen, who was still a more terrible voice. Then one stride she crossed the room and seized a great handful of Uncle Andrew's grey hair, and pulled his head back so that his face looked up into hers. Then she studied his face, just as he had studied Diggory's face in the palace of Charn. Studied his face. He blinked and licked his lips nervously all the time. And as she let him go, she so suddenly that he reeled back against the wall. "I see," she said scornfully. "You are a magician of a sort. Stand up, dog, and don't sprawl there as if you were speaking to your equals. How do you come to know magic? You're not of royal blood, I'll swear." "Well, not perhaps in the strictest sense," stammered Uncle Andrew. "No, not exactly royal, madam. The Ketleys are a very, however, old family, and old dorsal family, ma'am." I know I didn't pronounce that right. Ow. My back. I'm not Grandpa. Oh. Much better. Now, where were we? Right. Okay, the witch. Dorsetshire family, ma'am. I feel better about that one. Yeah. "Peace," said the witch. I see what you are. You are a little peddling magician who works by rules and books. There is no real magic in your blood and heart. Your kind has made an end of it. Made an end of in my world 1,000 years ago, but here I shall allow you to be my servant." "I should be most happy, delighted to be of any service. A pleasure, I assure you." "Peace. You talk far too much. Listen to your first task. I see we are in a large city. Procure me at once a chariot or a flying carpet, or, well, a well-trained dragon, whatever is usual for royal and noble persons in your land. Then bring me up to places where I can get clothes and jewels and slaves fit for my rank. Tomorrow I will begin conquest of the world." "I'll go and get a cab at once," gasped Uncle Andrew. "Stop," said the witch, just as he had reached the door. "Do not dream of treachery. My eyes can see through the walls and into the minds of men. They will be on you wherever you go, and at the first sign of disobedience I will lay down such spells that anything you sit down on will feel like red-hot iron, and wherever you lie in bed there will be invisible blocks of ice at your feet. Now go." "Oh, lady, you have problems." The old man went out, looking like a dog with his tail between his legs. The children were now afraid that Jadis would have something to say to them. What had happened in the wood? As it turned out, however, she never mentioned it earlier than afterwards. I think, and Diggory thinks too, that her mind was never a sort which cannot remember that quiet place at all. However often you took her there, however long you'd left her there, she would still know nothing about it. Now that she was left alone with the children, she took no notice of either of them, and was left there too, and was like her too. In Charn, she hadn't taken notice of Polly. She hadn't taken notice of Polly till the very end, because Diggory was one that she wanted to make use of. Now that she had Uncle Andrew, she took no notice of Diggory. I expect most witches are like that. They're not interested in things or people unless they can use them. They're terribly practical. So there was silence in the room for a minute or two. but you could tell by the way that Jadis tapped her foot on the floor that she was growing impatient. Presently she said as if to herself, "What is that old fool doing? I should have brought a whip." She stalked out of the room in pursuit of Uncle Andrew, without one glance at the children. "Whew!" said Polly, letting out a long breath of relief. "And now I must get home. It's frightfully late. I shall catch it." "Whew!" said Polly, letting out a long breath of relief. "And now I must get home. It's frightfully late. I shall catch it." "Well, do come back as soon as you can," said Diggory. "This is simply ghastly having her here. We must make some sort of plan." "That's up to your uncle now," said Polly. "It was he who started all this mess about with magic. It was he who started about all this messing about with magic. I don't know. I was messing up some accents there. Doesn't matter. "All the same, you'll come back, won't you? Hang it all, you can't leave me alone to scrap like this." "Well, I shall go home by the tunnel," said Polly rather coldly. "That'll be the quickest way. And if you won't come back, hadn't you better say you're sorry?" "Sorry?" exclaimed Diggory. "Well now, if it isn't just like a girl, what have I done?" "Oh, nothing, of course," said Polly sarcastically. "Only nearly screwed my wrist off in that room with all the waxworks. Like a cowardly bully. Only struck the bell with the hammer like a silly idiot. Only turned on the back wood so that she had time to catch hold of you before we jumped into the pool. That's all." "Oh," said Diggory, very surprised. Well, all right. I say I'm sorry. I really am sorry. Sorry about what happened in the waxworks room. There, I've said I'm sorry. Do be decent and come back. I shall be in a frightful hole if you don't." "Well, I don't see what's going to happen to you. It's Mr. Kettley's who's going to sit in red-hot chairs and have ice in his bed, isn't it?" "It isn't that sort of thing," said Diggory. "What I'm bothered about is Mother. Suppose that creature went into her room. Well, she might frighten her to death." "Oh, I see," said Polly in a rather different voice. "All right. Well, I'll come back." "All right. We'll call it Pax. I'll come back if I can, but I must go now." And she crawled through the little door. She crawled to the little door into a tunnel. And that dark place among the rafters, which had seemed so exciting and adventurous a few hours ago, seemed quite tame and homely now. "Oh no. Oh, I need a beverage. Ooh, beverage for an old woman."
And now back to our regularly scheduled broadcast.
We must go back to Uncle Andrew. His poor old heart went pitter-pat as he staggered down the attic stairs, as he kept on dabbing his forehead with a handkerchief. When he reached his bedroom, which was the floor below, he locked himself in, and the very first thing he did was to grope in his wardrobe for a bottle of wine glass, which he always kept hidden there, where Aunt Letty couldn't find them. He poured himself a glass